here's the thing with the Pam Bondi pick. A week ago, I think you and I and Hugh and a lot of us were kind of in the same boat about the Matt Gaetz pick. And at the time, I was doing a podcast with our friend Ed Morrissey, and there was like 20, 21 picks that the president made thus far, and we gave them all letter grades. And you gave it a GPA after 21 picks and averaged it out. And even giving the Matt Gaetz pick an F, which I personally did and Ed Morrissey did, the grade weight was still a 3.3 week, or a couple of weeks, which is pretty good. Now you take off the Matt Gaetz pick and you put Pam Bondi in there and you recalculate the GPA. And I mean, we're talking magna cum laude material now, aren't we?
Oh, well, look, I think that what we can say about this is there was just very much a bad apple in this mix from day one. And here's the thing, there are always going to be controversial cabinet picks. You're never going to have a cabinet that doesn't have somebody controversial within it. Last time around for Joe Biden, that turned out to be Javier Becerra, who ended up having the closest margin of anybody. He got in by one vote. Susan Collins switching over to join the Democrats in order to get him in. And that was a situation where, frankly, everybody had concerns about him because he was such a partisan hack with no health experience. And, of course, he turned out to be that as HHS secretary.
And lost 400,000 kids.
Yeah, and lost 400,000 kids, which is just, just something you do on a day in the NY. So you have a controversial pick in every situation. But the question is, how much energy are you going to expend for that pick? Are they worth it? And in this case, the issue with Gaetz, and I think that everyone in the Senate, the reason it was such a jaw-dropping pick was not that it was, out of the range of possibility, though I think that nobody had him on their list. It's more, why would you run the risk of putting someone like this in such a significant position when there's no confidence that they even have the capability to do the job, when it isn't even worth it? You're going to be spending political capital on this guy, for several months, in a way that hampers your whole opening and your first 100 days and everything like that. Why not hit the ground running? And I think that that's the real, issue that was always there with Gaetz. The other thing, of course, is, and I do want to clarify this because I think people have depicted it falsely online in a lot of different ways. They basically retreated to this argument. There was a DOJ investigation into him on all of these ethical issues,
right?
And it didn't result in a conviction. Well, the DOJ, of course, investigates federal crimes, and that doesn't mean that Matt Gaetz is innocent of things. It means more that he did not commit a federal crime. It's perfectly possible to do horrible things that ought to be disqualifying for anybody who tries to be the Attorney General of the United States, including the things that we know for a fact that he did. We have the records, we have the witnesses, we have everything that's involved. This is not some leftist conspiracy. And by the way, I would just say the simple fact is, in thinking about this rationally, and one of the reasons why I truly believe that he dropped out, and I've been told this by multiple people who are well-connected in Florida and active in Florida politics, and not even particularly opposed to Matt Gaetz, is that there was more to come. Essentially, if you look back at that New York Times report about when these Venmo payments were made and when things started in terms of his relationship with someone who was convicted for federal crimes, and arranging all of these things, it started in 2017, right after he showed up in Washington. Now, if you are of the mindset that Matt Gaetz just started to do this kind of thing when he showed up in Washington, I have a bridge to sell you. The simple fact is that his days in the Florida legislature were known for this type of activity as well, and there would have been a further investigation into all of that, in terms of going back through his record. And I think that what he understood, and the mistake that I think he made, is I think that he thought that simply the power of Donald Trump would be able to move some of these senators, perhaps not counting on the fact that we have several lame duck senators who are going to be headed toward retirement. We have others who have districts and states who are simply, have already proven that they can overcome the animosity of Donald Trump, including Murkowski and Collins.
Right.
And I think that the simple fact was that he started underneath 50, and far underneath 50 from what I am told. And then he had no real plan to get to 50. And if you don't have a plan to get to 50, why expend any more political capital on this person?
And I'm thankful. I'm thankful he was at least gracious enough to say, it's not good for one person to get in the way of Trump's agenda.
I don't think that he said that. I personally don't think that he said that willingly. I think that Donald Trump understands the situation, and I think that he, had a conversation with Gates that ultimately led to this decision because
fair enough.
Donald Trump does not like to lose, and that's something that it's been reported by some people. You can gauge the reliability of some of them, but it's one of the things where Mark Caputo is a pretty good connected Florida reporter, and that's what he says happened. Well, the thing that I just think was clear about this pick from day one was they did not have a strategy to get to 50. And as much as Donald Trump is very powerful, there are certain, steps that people are not willing to take when it comes to this type of out of the box, selection.
Just
really good.
Just a couple seconds left because the music's playing. How excited are you about Pam Bondi as a replacement? She's all the upside with no downside, right?
He should have named her from the first place.
Yep.
She's a perfectly good pick. She'll sail through.